the 16 years of being in Dubai, this is only the second time I've seen numbers like this.
Last month, it was the highest price per square foot that's been recorded. I think it was actually 1,439 dirhams.
You would expect Dubai to be more expensive.
Tune into another episode of Taking Care of Business, where Carl and I dig deep into the numbers for August.
37.3 billion dirhams worth of total sales value. We had multiple banks tell us, please do not send us any further business over the summer because we cannot cope.
Find out how the off-plan market continues to dominate the resale market.
66.9% of these total transactions are actually people buying properties off-plan. So off-plan at the minute is very dominant.
And here's what you can expect in Q4.
Because the sentiment in Dubai at the moment is so positive and from all angles, there's been more transactions than ever, and there's records of that. I think it's going to be a really, really positive next 3 months. I really do believe that.
We have actually got 4 months until Christmas. That is wild. Absolutely wild.
I remember, where was I? It was February, and there was something that we were doing as a family, and it was like, it was going to be this month. And I thought, that's miles away. There's no point in even talking about it. Now we are where we are. What did you find? I wanted to ask you a question. When you went away in the summer,
Yeah.
what was your glaring things whilst you were away in terms of, like, what did you notice the most? Because you went back to UK.
Yeah, so in the UK, in Ibiza, things are slower, things are harder to get in terms of, everything's at your top of your fingertips. Yeah.
I became more of a snob.
I am a snob, I don't care.
Do you know when you think, Carl, and you go to these places, and especially the hotels, and you stay in nice hotels, of course, but the 5-star hotels, let's say in Europe, or when you go back to the UK, whatever it may be,
You can't compare. Dubai's got that extra little bit of glisten on the hotels. But you know what? You're not listening to this podcast today to talk about mine and Marc's snobbery and hotel choices. You're tuned in because we are Allsopp and Allsopp. This is Marc Walters, the MD at Allsopp and Allsopp.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, we're actually here to talk about the August market data, what's happening in the Dubai property market. It's been a lot of really juicy bits of information we want to talk to you about. We've got 4 months the rest of this year, so going to give you some insights about what we think might happen, and certainly going into 2025, which is crazy for us to even talk about. We've got some data from Allsopp and Allsopp and some data from Dubai Land Department. The most common question I get asked is, and actually last week someone asked me, am I buying at the top of the market? Do you think it's a good time to buy? Straight off the bat, before we even talk about data, is it a risk for someone to buy today knowing that we are now in another highest height of the property market in Dubai?
Carl, absolutely not. And for me, and I want to repeat exactly what I say every time I come on the podcast. Last month, it was the highest price per square foot that's been recorded. I think it was actually 1,439 dirhams. That's right across the board. So obviously your higher end and your lower end and so on and so forth.
Just out of curiosity, just what would 1,439 dirhams be in pounds?
So that gets what, £350 per square foot?
Okay.
To put that into context, there's properties where I live at this moment in time in a decent part of Liverpool that are £360 per square foot.
Okay. And
the amenities and the luxury and the lifestyle and the safety and everything that goes with it is just nowhere near what we get today. So anyone, and I think the perception with some people, Carl, especially in our industry, is because they've seen it when the market was at X price, let's say at 1,000 dirham per square foot, which was just wild. It's just incredible how cheap. And I still think to this day, Carl, it's so affordable. It's extremely affordable considering where we live. The prices of just shy of 1,500 dirhams per square foot is, I think it's wild. I honestly believe.
For context, and I did, and we'll go back to the question I asked you in a minute about being a good time to buy. I have bought some stuff in Manchester, bought some stuff in Birmingham and London, and certainly Manchester and Birmingham off plan today. You are looking anywhere between 580 to 700 pounds per square foot in not a major capital. Yes, it's a major city, but we compare Dubai to these places, you would expect Dubai to be more expensive. It is probably just under half the price of these off-plan launches, which is wild. Going back to my question, someone asked me last week in the gym, Calm, am I buying at the height do you think there's a chance of property market going down? Because history teaches us a lot. 2014, 2008, prices declined. What would you tell someone in my shoes last week?
I'd say no. In short, I think what you've said there in terms of the time frames of when the prices did come down, we're in a completely different market now. We're in a completely different market in terms of product, in terms of lifestyle, and all the things that I mentioned before. If let's say we dig the bones out of what we're talking about here, I believe every single property car that we have sold post-COVID, we have made money on for clients. Anyone who's bought a property, I don't think there's anyone who has lost any money on a specific property, no matter what development it is, whether it be in our core areas or our more obscure areas. These properties have not devalued, and I don't see it happening anytime soon. I really, really don't. The influx in people, I think, with people coming to Dubai, you look at the figures of companies being formed in H1 of 2024, it's 22% more than what it was in H1 of 2023.
Yeah.
All of these things just point in one direction for me. And again, we're always going to put a spin on things, Carl. I understand that, but I don't see, there's nothing that is suggesting to me that we are going to see any sort of downturn anytime soon.
So for someone that's been in this marketplace for 16 years, we actually celebrated our 16th anniversary last Sunday, which is 16 years in business. So we've seen a lot of change. We've seen markets go up, markets go down. The biggest difference between now, anyone that's listening and watching, between now and 2014, 2008, is the vast majority, a huge proportion of people buying properties are actually buying to live in. So if you're buying a property to live in, there is less reason, should the market soften, there is less reason for people to panic and then sell, which in turn creates more properties on the market, which then takes the market down. So the actual sudden drops in prices we've seen in 2008 and 2014, I think there is less likelihood of that ever happening because there's more people in market that are living there to live, probably not going to react to any softening in the marketplace, which means there's not going to be a load of properties coming to the market which drive prices down. So I think we're in a completely different marketplace. I think we're in a more of a mature marketplace where I think if we did ever see softening in the future, which in any property market you see ups and downs, rather than that sharp, it's down 10, 15, 20%, you might find some softening. However, the fundamentals of this property market right now are there are more businesses than ever coming and relocating to the UAE, particularly with geopolitics around the world. There's lots of elections happen, and we've got a big one coming in November with Trump and Kamala Harris. Lots of people leaving their home countries because they're frustrated what's happening in their own countries, which then creates opportunity for the UAE. So record number of businesses coming here. On track for more than 100,000 people come to country this year. People that are buying and converting from being a tenant to being a homeowner, so more deep-rooted clients in the city. Not to mention zero income tax. That's just scratching the surface of all the reasons why I see this momentum continue in the property market. Will we see 20, 30, 40, 50% increases that we have done in previous years? Probably unlikely. However, if we're seeing a nice solid late single, early double-digit teen growth every year, brilliant.
Can I ask you a question then, Carl? I'm going to go off piste a little bit here. First-time buyers. Mm-hmm. Do you think that it's becoming more of a problem for first-time buyers? Let's say your average young family come from wherever they live, let's call it the UK. They are coming, I think the average salary, I think that in H1, I think was around about 34,000 dirhams.
Yeah.
How can they get on the ladder? Is it getting further away? Because the guys who are on the ladder now, it's fine, because what people are doing, like you've said, the transitioning from properties that they bought, whether it be an apartment or whether it be a townhouse, naturally that property's increased by 25, 30%, whatever it may be. So they then have the capital to then release and then put into it, whether it be a bigger property because they're expanding their family. What do you think, should there be something in place for first-time buyers? Because it is getting further and further away.
Yeah, so two things will happen. One, it takes people longer to save. At the minute, we're talking 2-income family salary to save their first deposit on a home less than 2 million dirhams. At the minute, we're talking anywhere between about 3.5 years. So 2-income salary, saving X amount of money per month to get your deposit 3.5 years. That period will probably go further because prices are increasing. So day 0, maybe day 5, where people are at year 5 before people are ready to purchase. The other alternative would be that there might maybe more value further away from the core parts of Dubai. So people are actually having to consider purchasing in more suburban communities, perhaps ones that are either new or you've not heard of, to get more value. Should there be any incentives for first-time buyers to buy? Yes. Will it happen in a heated marketplace, which is what we're in? Very unlikely. I think the government or anything out there will save that up their sleeve for a time when there is softening. But yeah, look, it is tough. And I think, even in our home countries in the UK, it's tough for anyone right now to save up their first deposit and buy their first house. I'm sure I've seen a stat that the first home for someone is like edging nearer to 40.
37.
Yeah.
37. That, I think 10 years ago, it was hovering around a 30 to 31 years of age mark. So it has increased significantly. But what we're seeing, and just from internally here, the amount of people that are coming to country, the amount of young professionals that are coming to country, just to Allsopp and Allsopp, is increasing significantly month on month on month. And I think that's not just our sector. I think it's right across the board. Friends and family who we've seen, I've certainly personally for me, my sister-in-law and my brother-in-law, they've done the same. He's a teacher and they're getting on the ladder. Like you've said, it's taking them a little bit more time, but they are looking further afield, the likes of the Valley and places like that.
You might see more rent-to-own schemes. Yeah. You may see more flexible payment plans to allow people to actually get into their first property. There's stuff that can happen. What I would say to anyone is that, yes, prices are going up. It will mean you need to go a little bit further afield. And, it might mean you have to probably take a little bit longer to save, unfortunately. But, when that time comes, do it. So, DLD, Dubai Land Department, if anyone's not familiar with that acronym, DLD, Dubai Land Department, essentially the land registry for Dubai itself. Some whopping numbers: 37.3 billion dirhams worth of total sales value was recorded in August of 2024, and that is actually a 33% increase on the previous August. For anyone listening, this information is transferred data, so essentially a completion in the UK. Typically, you would see these transactions happen 3 months, 4 months prior to this date. So we're talking probably April, March time when these deals are actually happening. Thoughts on the second highest transaction month ever recorded?
It just doesn't surprise me. I think sometimes we try and sensationalize these podcasts, Carl, and a lot of people come on these podcasts, and all podcasts around Dubai, and it's always the same narrative: is that the property prices are increasing. There's been more transactions than ever, and there's records of that. But it doesn't surprise me. It does not surprise me whatsoever, because people now, whereas it used to be, again, people used to come from wherever they lived, and it was more rent for 2 or 3, rent for 4 or 5 years. People are coming over now and they want to buy as soon as possible. Some people are coming over and they want to buy within the first 6 months. If they take a mortgage out, obviously they have to have a salary going in for a 6 months.
You know why I think it's happening, by the way? Because of what people's home country states are, and they're seeing Dubai as a more all-in rather than I'll see how it goes for me for a year. With these golden visas now, people are getting to country knowing, actually, I've got a 10-year view on this, rather than coming in many, many years ago and having a 2-year visa and thinking, I'll look at it in 2 years to see where we are from there. So people are coming in and thinking, I'm actually going in and going 2 feet first rather than dipping the toe in.
But you touched on it before. I wanted to pick up. It's a more mature market. Yeah. Whereas there was a lot of stigma around Dubai, let's say in the last 10 to, we've been here 16 years, there was a lot of stigma around Dubai, whether that be developments not handing over or whatever it may be, safety and everything else. Now it's just completely done a 360.
It's proving itself, isn't it?
It's proved itself already, yeah.
My message to anyone is, wake up. This runaway train of Dubai is not going anywhere. And what you don't want to be doing is left at the station. Left at the station while that train is going away, because this property market for the next several years ahead of us is going to be in a very strong place. The fundamentals are there. And I said many times, the only thing that could potentially stop it is a black swan moment, which is very, very, very unlikely. So if you're thinking about buying, and I'm not pitching anyone who's watching this, the reality is look at the numbers. The numbers say far more people coming into the country, prices are likely to continue. If you sit on your hands and you think prices might come down, I promise you now, in 12 months' time, 18 months' time, there's a very high chance you'll be thinking and think, oh, I wish I bought 18 months, 12 months ago.
But Kyle, prices are still attractive.
Yeah.
Prices are so attractive.
They're not attractive to people that have been here 16 years because they know what it was like then. But if you compare it to anywhere else in the world, there's tremendous value. And the biggest barometer of anyone that's watching this, by the way, over the summer, we have a mortgage brokerage here. We had multiple banks tell us, please do not send us any further business over the summer because we cannot cope. There was massive amounts of applications going in, not just from us, but different mortgage brokerages. Couldn't cope. Demand, what does that tell you?
That coincides again with our mortgage department, Carl. More submissions than ever. And it's month on month on month. Record months, record submissions, record deals. And obviously we've got to expand our mortgage department. And that just shows, again, the appetite for what people want.
So going hand in hand with total value, 14,992 properties were transacted in August. That's a 36% increase versus the previous year, so August 2023. We're doing some number crunching. 66.9% of these total transactions were actually people buying properties off plan. So off plan at the minute, off plan for anyone developer, it's something new, is very dominant at the minute. You know, people are very attracted to these glossy brochures, the deferred payment plan, paying over a longer period. Many years ago, it's very much weighted into secondary, but I think off-plan is very dominant. What's your thoughts on that?
I think there's a lot more education around off-plan as well, Carl. We had a training session a couple of weeks back with a few of our guys, and just making them understand the value of when they put, let's say they put 10% into a property, and the property, let's say for instance they're buying a house for an apartment for 2 million dirhams, and the property increases and the premium goes to 2.2 million, not the premium, but it goes to 2.2 million dirhams. Their initial investment is 200,000 dirhams, but they've made a 200,000 dirham profit.
So 100%.
So they're making 100% on their money. Plus the fact there's no interest what they're paying. Plus the fact is, like you say, there may be deferred payments or there might be post handovers, which are, I'm not saying they're coming back in, but there's been a couple of developers who are offering a post handover payment.
I think that's happening, by the way, because loads of outside developers coming into country, so from UK and Europe, people basically saying, right, okay, well, Dubai's got a lot going for it. We're going to, try and jump on this gravy train and try and do our own thing. So because no one knows these developers here in Dubai, they're having to be a little bit creative to attract people to say, look, this is a good product. Give us a try. It's our first thing. Unlike 15, 16 years ago, there's a lot more strict policies with regards to escrow accounts. So, we're very unlikely to have what happened many years ago where stuff wasn't built.
You look at amenities as well, Carl. Let's say for instance, there's development in JLT by Ellington. What they're offering podcast rooms, they're offering music rooms, they're offering paddle courts, they're offering co-hub space, all of these things.
That's why I bought there.
Exactly. But this is where, and again, going back to the amount of units that are coming into market, they've got to be creative with the amenities.
80% of all transactions are apartments. I mean, surely if you're an investor, you should be basically jumping on any opportunity to buy townhouses and villas, right? Certainly entry level.
Joe, have you found that there's always been a lack of townhouses?
Yeah, I think, I don't know the numbers, by the way, but I'm sure someone correct me, but building apartment blocks, what seems to be probably easier and more lucrative.
Yeah.
But, it's very easy to see when you have a Till Al Gaff or one of these communities like Moodon or further out, when something launches, they sell because there's not a lot of them. So, certainly.
I'd like to Till Al Gaff, Carl, just touch on that. There's been more transactions, and I've got the stats today. There's been more transactions in Till Al Gaff than what there have been in Arabian Ranches 1 and 2 put together, in Springs and Meadows put together. I think there's been, in the last 6 months, 397 transactions in Till Al Gaff. And again, majority of them are going to be Elands. They're the townhouse apartments, townhouse properties. But it just shows you when you have. It was the same as when, if you remember, Carl, when we were selling Redwood Park in Jumeirah Golf Estates. They were so popular. They sold out within, I think, 1 or 2 days when we launched. The segments of the townhouse, it doesn't seem, no one seems to really, well, it shows at the apartments, doesn't it? No one,
It's a huge undertaking. So if you're building a townhouse development, there's so much more you've got to think about with roads and parks and all that sort of stuff. And I would imagine it's far more expensive to build and put together, and obviously makes the build time longer. But for me, I still think there's definitely a market for apartments. I think if you're buying off plan, why it's attractive is that you get to defer how you're not paying loads of money up front, you're paying over a longer period of time. But when you're buying off plan, just ensure that you're looking at location, which is the biggest thing, the old cliche, location. You are looking at what's different about the building. Is there anything unique in there in terms of pools and podcast rooms or whatever it might be? And obviously developers' track record. We're seeing at the minute, build times anywhere between 3 and 4 years. So to make sure that your money's not tied up in somewhere that's going to take longer than that.
the stigma was always around you're not earning money on rental income, but then obviously you've got to look at what capital appreciation you're accumulating.
This is mine and your argument, boy. So me and Marc are very different investors. Marc is I want money to hit my bank every single month. I'm a landlord. I want money. I'm hedging. And which by I am a landlord as well. But I like the idea of buying something off plan, knowing that actually it's probably a good chance I'm probably going to make 30% on my money, more than what you'd be making on your 6% in 4 years.
It's true. I'm coming around to it.
Yeah,
it is true.
Okay, so I think we all agree. We listen to podcasts. Off plan sales right now are very, very good. Average price per square foot, Marc, is touched on where we're currently now at the highest higher, 2.5% higher than July 2024. Can it go higher? Yes,
Absolutely.
I believe it can. Top 5 areas and most transacted areas according to Dubai Land Department. JVC, Jumeirah Village Circle, The Valley, Shoba Heartland 2, Mina Rashid, by the way, which I think is going to be a little hidden gem right on the seafront, and Dubai Residence Complex. The top 5 areas of most off-plan launches in August were Dubai Hills, Jumeirah Village Circle, Dubai Creek Harbour, and Mina Rashid. And then the top 5 areas for most completed units were Al Fajjan, City Walk, Sports City, Dubai, Silicon Oasis, and JVC. On to Allsopp and Allsopp sales. Now, our data is obviously everything that happens in our business per month. It's not indicative of what happens market-wide, but gives you an idea of what we're seeing on the ground. And a lot of our data happens now, and what's happening now will be reflected typically in Dubai Land Department data in 3 to 4 months' time. So we're actually seeing huge traction in really 5 million above property prices. We're seeing a 16% increase in total sales transactions versus last August 2023. We're seeing a huge double in ultra luxury transactions versus last August, which is wild. But that will play a part within our private office being opened. Price brackets. So the most common price bracket in our business is anywhere between 1 and 3 million dirhams. That's 40% of all of our sales in August. And that was a 12% increase versus last year. Do you want to touch on viewing? So what that is and what it means and what the numbers are there?
I think we're up by 39% year on year. That is just as, I think people now want to see more properties because there is a lot to go at. Obviously, whether it be new developments coming into market, whether it be, and again, we always talk about these numbers, Carl, but I always talk about the quality of our agents as well. And the quality of our agents is whereby we train our agents not always to speak about what the client has maybe called in on. 9 times out of 10, they might not buy that property what they've called in on. And what I find is that we are now maybe spinning people onto something when we're educating them a little bit more onto other areas, and that will coincide with the uptick, I believe, in the amount of viewings that people are taking to buy properties.
Yeah,
it takes, like you say, from start to finish. We can't put a figure on it, but because there is a lot more to go at, and like you say, there's a lot more product out there. I think
there's more choice. And do you know what? Anyone listening, watching to this, if you're speaking to one of our agents at Allsopp today, You may have an idea of where you want to be, and someone's told you go and live here. Be a little bit open-minded, because you might be a little bit surprised about what is out there. Listen to some suggestions, whether it's different areas, different communities, different towers, different property types. Very often, most people end up buying or renting something they didn't first inquire about. So,
I've found as well, Carl, sorry to interrupt, I've found in the summer months, I had 2 weeks away, but I've found it was a lot busier than what it's ever been. Obviously, the numbers suggest that, but I mean in terms of on the roads, in the malls, people will still say it was they were quiet. Well, yeah, obviously they're going to be quieter, but I felt this year people stayed in country. I do believe that, whatever that reason is, I don't know. But I think also there has a part to play with the amount of viewings that we've saw in the summer months.
Yeah. Cash versus finance. So finance for us, despite the opposite in the market wide, just shy of 60% of people buying with Allsopp and Allsopp are buying with finance. Plays into us being very strong in the secondary market, also having our own mortgage brokerage. There's actually been a 20% increase, though, of cash purchases versus last August. So
that just shows security in the market. People are willing now to maybe put a larger down payment on a property.
Well, it does also say, though, is money still quite expensive to borrow,
Yeah.
expensive relative to 3 years ago. So people are probably thinking, buy cash, maybe refinance later on. We are expected to see some rate reviews, and certainly downwards rate review in 2 weeks' time, so middle of September. Mortgage affordability for first-time buyers. How would you think the rate review would impact people if rates come down 25, 0.5%?
It'll have a big impact. You look at cost of living in Dubai at the moment, Carl. It's very expensive. So to have that, whether it be a quarter of a point or half a point, it'll have a significant impact, depending on what they're lending.
What I think will probably happen is it will allow people to push their budgets a little bit more. So, if rates come down 0.5%, I think it could be a difference between probably up to 300 to 500,000 dirhams on being able to afford, let's say, a 2-bed, maybe a 2-bed plus 3 or 1-bed. So you might see the market push up a little bit more because people have got a bit more breathing room to purchase.
I think what you've got to look at as well, Carl, is that it's significantly more to rent a property than what it is to make your repayments each month. I think that's what, obviously you've got to have your down payments and whatnot, but it's a significant amount difference in renting a property as opposed to paying off property and not someone else's mortgage.
Top transacting areas for us. Do you want to read them out? We've got Jumeirah Golf Estates at number 1.
Yeah. JGE, which doesn't come as a surprise. And again, you look at our market share in JGE is ridiculous as well. Arabian Ranches.
Just to add on that, we transact just under 50% of total villa sales in Jumeirah Golf Estates as of last month, right?
Last month, that's correct. Arabian Ranches, again, not a surprise. The Springs, Arabian Ranches 2, Damac Hills. That's made, I'm not saying it's made a surprise entry there, but it's very, very, probably speaking to before one of our managers, how we need more people to go into Damac Hills because of the surge in the transactions there. Then we've got Reem, Al Fajjan, and Arabian Ranches 3. I want to touch on Al Fajjan, Carl, with regards to that end of the market. That, for me, the likes of you Dubai South, and obviously with Jebel Ali, Palm Jebel Ali, I know it's 10, 15 years away yet, but the amount of infrastructure that side of Dubai is going to be seeing within the next 5 to 10 years is going to be significant. And the likes of your Fajans, the likes of your Dubai South, all areas around there, I think we're going to see a
Could
massive...
that be, because when you talk to people at the minute, most people know downtown Dubai, it's kind of like the main...
Yeah.
Could that side of a town be the downtown of Dubai, if that makes sense? Because there's so much, they've got the airport and lots of infrastructure going on there.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't think downtown will surpass there, but I think there's a chance that it will be on par. I was reading the other day, and there's a golf development called Discovery Dunes. They are based, I think they've got a course in Portugal, and you can buy a plot there, and their starting prices are $6 million, ranging up to $50-60 million, I think. But for them to go into that part of the city, they've
got faith that
absolutely.
And just so in terms of lettings, obviously lettings and rentals is a huge part of the property market. We're actually seeing a 43% increase in people viewing properties versus the previous year. August really, for most rental businesses, is very busy. People getting ready for kids to go back at school, moving into country. We're actually seeing rental checks accounting to more than a third. So 4 checks or more accounting for more than a third of all transactions, which is the highest we've seen. And single payments also a third. So it's good that there's flexibility in the marketplace. I think if landlords are asking higher rents month on month, year on year, I think flexibility is key to allow people to spread payments.
We find as well, just touching on another point, we find our summer months year on year, we find are our busiest in the 12 months of the year. This, or August I should say, was our best month in terms of revenue for lettings.
Yeah.
It was the same last year. I think last year was our second best ever month. And it just shows, again, whilst people are coming back into country and everything else, there's still people here, whether that be renewals or whether that be people wanting to upsize or downsize. And it just shows in our numbers internally for Allsopp and Allsopp that it was very, very busy month for August.
Top rental areas, villa townhouses, Ream, Town Square and Jumeirah Golf Estates for rentals. And then top transacting areas for apartments were downtown Dubai, Dubai Marina and Palm Jumeirah. So, $1 million question. Get your crystal ball out, Mystic Marc. Q4, what do you expect to happen in Q4? We've got October, November, December, typically a busy time of the year for the marketplace. What do you expect?
I think the mortgage rates, whilst they won't have a massive impact, I think they'll have an impact. I believe we will see, I don't think we'll see a spike in prices, but I do believe we'll see price per square foot and prices increase, whether that definitely single digits, definitely not double digits. Notoriously, it's always probably our busiest quarter leading up to October, November, and December's obviously a little bit different, but it's always notoriously our most, our busiest time of the year. I think where we are, Carl, I think because the sentiment in Dubai at the moment is so positive and from all angles, I think it's going to be a really, really positive next 3 months. I really do believe that. Similar for lettings as well. I think the amount of people, and I touched on before with the amount of companies that have opened in H1, I expect that to be the same in H2 as well.
Yeah.
And that's going to have a positive impact as well.
Do you see any difference in what the frequency of off-plan launches and what is being launched? So start of the year, we talked every 17 hours, a development was being launched. Yeah. Obviously, it's not that now. Developers don't really launch much over summer because many people are away. Do you see the frequency changing, and do you see what's launched in the back end of the year being different?
I don't think it'll be as often.
Yeah.
I don't think it should be as often as well. Like I say, we saw a launch every 17 hours, which was very, very aggressive. I still think people need to be very careful about what they are choosing as well. It's so important. I touched on before amenities and being creative in what they are launching in terms of facilities and paddle courts.
Well, you look at Gaffwoods.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the prime example of being something different. A development sat in woods essentially. No cars. So obviously, from a cleanliness in terms of a healthy perspective, clean air, that is differentiated itself. So I just think developers now have got to be a lot more creative, not just put it on a brochure, but deliver more well-rounded amenities. I think buyers buying, and certainly buyers in Europe buying, are more eco-friendly. They're more how green is the development. Will we see more villa communities? I think there has to be. I would imagine, and I don't know this for sure, I would imagine the government will be having conversations about how frequent launches should be happening. They'll be guiding that. So it'll be interesting to see what the back end of this year.
I think they definitely have to do that.
Yeah.
Because obviously it's going to have an impact in the next 3 or 4 years with the amount of properties that are going to come in onto market, So I do feel like they will have a say in the frequency of the amount of launches that are going to be coming in, not just over the course of the next 3 months, but over the course of probably the last 12, 18 months.
Good. Before we wrap things up, my parting take is, yes, we've got a lot of things happening this year. We've got Rate reviews, I think we may see a couple of reductions in rates this year. We've got obviously a big election in November, which the US determines a lot with what's happening, particularly here in the UAE. I'm keeping a keen eye on the frequency of launches. I actually think, I agree with Mark, there may be a little bit less, but I still think we'll see a hell of a lot over the next 3-4 months running to the end of the year.
What you're finding, Carl, sorry to interrupt, what you're finding is the independent developers as well. Some of the product that they're launching is exceptional. Yeah. It's really,
and they
really
have
good.
To make their first product, got to make a name for themselves. Yeah. But again, I'll come back to, I think we're going to continue the momentum going into 2025. I think the rates will give the market a bit of a shot on the arm. And if you sit on your hands, don't do it for much longer because you'll be left behind. This is Taking Care of Business. I'm Carl. This is Mark. See you later.
Thank you.